Continuing to read from A Mountain in Tibet, from page 174. After 2 years or so, I had finally settled my mind sufficiently to feel that I was ready for more advanced practices. It was fortunate I was receiving teachings from many great masters who visited KTD. I would get up at 3 a.m. and do 1,000 prostrations before a small breakfast, then carry on until it was time to eat lunch. In the afternoon I did various tantric practices, including Poa, White Tara, which Jamjong Kongtrul taught me, the 6 Yogas of Naropa, and Vajrayogini. Like many of the deities, Vajrayogini is concerned with cutting through ego fixation and awakening the wisdom energy of emotions, which are normally tied up in afflictions or mental poisons. I also went back to the 4 foundations and practiced them again. I spent a whole year just on Dorji Sempa, the Purification Practice, which I think of as like a solvent for the glue of grasping and clinging. I needed to practice it a great deal. It is a preliminary practice, but is also very profound and very important. Then in the evening I would do more prostrations, and when I grew tired I switched to calm abiding meditation, which was a good way of calming my mind and readying me for sleep. I would go to bed at 8 p.m. I found the 6 Yogas of Naropa particularly powerful. It is a very deep and profound practice that entails purifying the energies in one's subtle energy body. It involves breathing exercises, intense visualization, and strong yogic movements. My brother Akon asked Lama Ganga to teach it to me after they met at Samiling. Lama Ganga was a specialist retreat master and empowered to pass on ancient tantric practices to students in long retreats. He promised Akon that he would visit me, and I was delighted to receive him. I found great inspiration in dream yoga, which is related to the practice of lucid dreaming, but far more advanced. During dream yoga, we train to maintain conscious awareness of our dreams. This enables us to see that the dream state is an illusion, even though it feels utterly real while we're asleep. The idea is to apply this same awareness to daytime activity, and so understand that waking life is just as illusory. During daily life, we usually feel as if we are actively engaged with reality, but in fact, we are sleepwalking through a world of our own mind's creation. If we can hold this awareness, we can gradually train ourselves to feel less attachment to events and emotions. I've heard people express the worry that this might make our experience feel empty or alarmingly unreal. But in my experience, the opposite is true. Life feels more vital and vivid. When we become accomplished in this practice, we can direct our dreams in order to travel to places both earthly and heavenly. The modern secular term for this is astral traveling. I practiced dream yoga very diligently, and one day I chose to go to the Pure Land, or spiritual abode, of the deity Vajrayogini. When I came into the presence of Vajrayogini, she appeared in the form of a large black woman, who hugged me so hard that she almost crushed the life out of me. On another occasion, when I traveled in my dreams to meet her, she sliced my head off with her curved dagger and told me I had too much ego. After that, I was not so keen to go back. One of the most memorable dream yoga experiences I ever had turned out to be deeply prescient, though I didn't work out why until much later. During this particular dream, which I had towards the end of my retreat, I flew somewhere I had never been before. It was an island off an island, and I arrived there in the evening time. I vividly recall that there was a bay on the larger island that was lit up by the lights of houses and bars and restaurants. Across from this bay was a small island shaped like a lion whose mighty paws came down to the sea. It was sparsely inhabited, and there were very few lights. I recall landing there and looking across the lighted bay. I had no clue where I had ended up, and shortly afterwards I awoke to find myself back in my meditation box, in my cabin in Woodstock. At the time of the dream it felt very auspicious, and it certainly proved to be so later when I visited Holy Isle off the Isle of Arran in my flesh and blood body. I recognized it immediately as the place I had visited in my dreams all those years before. At the time when I mentioned the dream to Khenpo Karthar, he told me that I should give it no importance and forget about it. This is the traditional way for retreat masters to guide their retreatants, to ensure that they do not get too attached to what they might mistakenly regard as their own accomplishments. I am forever indebted to the many great masters who taught me so well. Those 5 years of my first long retreat allowed me to embed the changes that have slowly brought about the transformation of my mind. I owe a particular debt to Kalu Rinpoche, who on one of his visits told me to read the life of Milarepa, the great Tibetan saint from the 11th century. He felt that I needed radical inspiration, and I found it in Milarepa's story. From that day to this, I have never concerned myself with any of the mundane pleasures of life. I was able to engage with the Dharma from the very bottom of my heart. Milarepa is a beloved figure in Tibet, so I was already familiar with the outlines of his life story. He was born into a prosperous family and had an idyllic childhood until the death of his father, after which his uncle and aunt assumed responsibility for the family and took control of their wealth. Milarepa, his mother, and sisters were all forced to work like slaves. But they pinned their hopes on everything being returned to Milarepa when he came of age. When that day came, the uncle and aunt refused to honor their agreement and left the family destitute, whereupon Milarepa's mother demanded that her son seek revenge. She urged him to visit a famous teacher of black magic and learn everything he could, and then come back and destroy the uncle, aunt, and all their children. This is exactly what happened. But Milarepa didn't stop there. He caused the death of 35 people, and when the villagers threatened to kill his family in return, he summoned up a hailstorm to destroy all the crops except those in his mother's field. The teacher of the magic was saddened by this, and went to Milarepa to insist that he learn the ways of Dharma in order to mitigate all the bad karma he had generated for both of them. So Milarepa approached a teacher whose methods were said to guarantee liberation from samsara in one lifetime. But he didn't even practice them. He was too lazy. This teacher told him he could not help, because Milarepa's sins were too great and his efforts too small. Only Marpa the translator can help you, he told Milarepa. When Milarepa heard this name, his heart was full of joy. But it was to take him many years of effort and self-sacrifice before eventually, after he had performed many trials, including building and tearing down 3 tall towers, Marpa agreed to give him the teachings that would allow him to purify his negative deeds. Marpa sent Milarepa off to meditate for years in a cave in the mountains. And from then on, Milarepa was committed to the path of enlightenment. When he ran out of food, he ate nettles. He grew as thin as a skeleton, and his body turned green from the diet. But he was not afraid of death, and eventually he attained enlightenment within one lifetime. Even though I had been told this story many times, when I read it for myself in retreat, I connected with it in a profound way. It reminded me so forcefully of the many incidents of my own life. Thankfully, I had not killed 35 people, but I had been lazy, proud, resentful, and self-indulgent. I had blamed others for my problems and made no effort to let go of rancor, fear, and grievance. I now saw that big change is always possible. Even if you have generated a great deal of bad karma, but you cannot be lazy, and you cannot indulge in self-pity. It was plain to me that until I made a commitment to sincere practice, I would never have attained real happiness or fulfillment. But, of course, for the first half of my life, I was stuck in a vicious cycle of my own making. I could not commit because my mind's innate Buddha wisdom was obscured by negativity. Once the intention to shift from negative thoughts and emotions into positive ones had flowered in my heart, that downward spiral was reversed. It was very difficult to turn things around, but once I had, my life began to flow in an upward spiral. We can all do this. I have seen it happen over and over again. Significant effort is required at the beginning, but the process becomes easier and the rewards are enormous. It took me 5 years, but having established myself on the path to fulfillment, I wished for nothing but to stay in retreat for the rest of my life. That was not to be. I was about to be wrenched into a new phase of life. As on so many previous occasions, the agent of this change was my brother, Akong. Reading an excerpt from Karma Chami's Mountain Dharma from page 191.
Om Tare Tu Tare Ture Soa. 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 Om Ma Ne Pe Me Hum. 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 Om Ma Ne Pe Me Hum.
The student asks a question. When I circumambulate and walk by the retreat cabins, it is very inspiring just to contemplate the fact that at one time someone was there for so many years. Reading from page 192 with reference to Lama Yeshe Rinpoche during the time he did retreat at Woodstock, New York, under the guidance of Khenpo Karthar. This is from the second volume of Karma Chami's Mountain Dharma. Lama Yeshe Losal, who was known before he was ordained as Jamdrak, he was in there for years, and he practiced with diligence. Initially, when he first went into retreat, he found it difficult. But after practicing tranquility meditation for a long time, his mind became more and more stable, and he did very, very well. I am confident that those retreat facilities have great blessing because of all the excellent practice that was done there for so many years, and because His Holiness the 16th Karmapa visited them, Gyaltsab Rinpoche visited them, Situ Rinpoche visited them, and many other great teachers visited them. Continuing our reflections,
Mountain Dharma.
Lama Yeshe Rinpoche recognized for being a very important practitioner.
Yes. Yeah, we have those two books, by the way, in Mountain Dharma.
4 volumes.
Four volumes, yes.
It's Khenpo Karthur's teaching. The reason that Lama Yeshe Rinpoche comes up in the book is that there are quite a lot of question and answer sessions. And during that, questions are raised that may or may not be covered in the text itself. The thing that came up in that book was that people that were at KTD could feel that something had happened in the cabins that Lama Yeshe Rinpoche and the nun were inhabiting.
Yeah.
And they were asking what was going on there because they could feel it. They were both very diligent.
Yes.
And Khenpo Karthur's point was also not only their diligence, but the teachers like Karmapa and the other regents who came empowered the place even further so that it was elevated by this amazing practice and the presence of these guides from the lineage.
Yes.
The Mountain Dharma, it's another recognition from a voice of someone who Lama Yeshe Rinpoche studied with that what Lama Yeshe Rinpoche was able to accomplish was quite exceptional.
Yes, well, usually the 6 yogas is actually in the retreat is the cream of the practice.
All right.
It's the cream.
Yes.
That's my way of putting it. But it's not much for me to say about it. Lama Yeshe's already spoke about it, so.
That's right. He's making an emphasis on this part of the chapter, the transformation chapter, about the practice of dream yoga.
Yeah, dream yoga, before I ever done dream yoga, I done astral projection all the time before I ever knew anything about dream yoga.
So you had experiences from when you were quite young onward.
That's right, yeah. And mostly astral projection. I never knew anything about dream yoga then, but I knew about astral projection, yes.
It came to you naturally, didn't it?
Yeah,
actually. You didn't have to be trained up.
No,
you just
came natural.
Yeah, so you had definitely had some experience before with that in other lives.
And I told Thai but sometimes it happens without trying. He said you must have practiced it in a previous lifetime. That was why.
You were already wired in
yes,
to do it.
Yeah. Yes, it's good. So it's good to hear Lama Yeshe talk a wee bit about it too, which is very good.
Yes, well there's been quite a lot of interest in lucid dreaming, hasn't there? Drawing from the astral travel and the astral projection and lucid dreaming experiences to then wanting to know more, and those who are practitioners who get trained up, as Lama Yeshe Rinpoche said, would have a deeper practice than that.
Yes, that's right. See, the thing about the dream yoga, you're in a dream and you know you're dreaming, right? Astral projection is you're floating out your body. You're not in the dream, you're actually floating out your body. Like that.
Yes.
So it's a different experience with being in the dream.
Yes.
You come right out your body, your subtle body's coming right out. You know?
Yes.
Yes.
So this is a topic that comes up for those who are on a spiritual path, who have a natural inclination or tendency or past training in working with the energy in this way.
Yeah, that's right.
And it can be developed in this life through these sorts of experiences that are accessible to those who do retreat.
Yes. There's not much more for me to say about it, as Lama Yeshe's already spoken a lot about it.
Yes. And he's making a connection between Woodstock and Holy Isle that brought him here.
Yeah, that's right.
To this place to begin with. We were always told too that he saw a row of butter lamps along the shore, which would be the street lights. We have photographs of that appearance.
Yes.
Something that anyone who comes here to the island experiences, looking across to the island of Arran and the town of Lamlash and seeing all along the waterfront a row of butter lamps, a row of street lights, as well as the houses and the pubs and the businesses that would have illumination. It's quite striking. It looks very clear and vivid when you look across the body of water towards it.
Yes.
That's a part of something that was a part of Lama Yeshe Rinpoche's dream, and something that's a part of our experience on a daily basis when we look out across the water in this environment. It's very beautiful. What he was talking about is the dream yoga helps us then to become more capable of dealing with the long dream and our daily experiences, because we can bring some of that understanding to dynamics we would face and hopefully not hold them as solid, because we might be able to see they're just as illusory.
Yes.
They're just as fluid and they're just as open to the energy going in any direction as something that would be in a dream.
Yeah.
And that can free us, can't it?
Yes. That's right.
It's very liberating.
Yeah.
It releases our energy, and it also enables us to have a lot more freedom and choice and to be more open.
I just wonder, Lama, isn't there any white Tara out there? So some of the Lamas I've read about have come in contact with white Tara.
Oh,
Can I
yes,
do
ask
yoga?
him. We can ask him about that for sure.
Yeah. That's your practice, Lama Yeshe. So
So you want to know more
I
about...
must have something to say about white Tara.
Okay. So that's another addition to the story from our questions.
Yes.
It's wonderful that Lama Yeshe Rinpoche felt that this is how he would want to spend the rest of his life, in retreat.
Yes.
That's very, very beautiful intention and aspiration.
Yeah.
And what in unfoldment from where he had started to now having all this flowering from his heart.
But maybe it can still come through. Maybe he can go from now on. Maybe he can go into retreat for the rest of his life.
It could happen.
Yes.
It's always a possibility.
Yes.
And it's such a blessing for those who are involved and also all the rest of us, because we directly and indirectly benefit when our teachers are in retreat.
Uh-huh.
And when anyone in the world is committing themselves on that level to the spiritual path. It's a priceless gift.
Yeah. When Lama Yeshe was talking about spiraling up from the lower level up to the higher level, it reminded me the symbol of Bodhisattva, which the symbol of the dragon is a Bodhisattva, and the earth dragon spirals out the earth and goes up into the air for those who can see it. And that's it reminded me of that, yes.
So that's a traditional example of the spiral upwards, how it works. Very beautiful.
Yeah.
From the earth up to the sky.
Yes, yes.
Just like the birds.
Yes.
From the earth up to the sky, spreading their wings.
Yes.
Spiraling upwards.
Yes. The story of a dragon spiraling in the air and going up into the sky, it was Akam Rinpoche that told me that.
So it's an Akon Rinpoche story.
Aye, it's Akam Rinpoche's story, he told me that.
And that was Akon Rinpoche, who was born in the year of the dragon,
Yeah.
the Iron Dragon,
Yeah.
telling Yeshe this story, and Yeshe was also born in the year of the Iron Dragon. So that was two dragons having a conversation, and that bit of information came out of that.
Okay.
Okay, it's wonderful.